Yes, I'm Anika.
And I'm Andrea, and welcome to the final quick dive into Lower Decks. We are now on season 3 on the last 5 episodes, episodes 6 through 10. Though, if I'm being honest, only 4 of these episodes that we're talking about, but we'll get into it. There are 5 episodes in this block that we'll be discussing in this episode. The first one is episode 6. Here all trust nothing. The Cerritos crew unexpectedly spends a day on Deep Space Nine. This is a fun episode. Episode 7, A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. A wayward Starfleet ensign struggles to find the path of redemption. She doesn't find it. Episode 8, Crisis Point 2, Paradox. Boimler's holodeck movie sequel tries to live up to the original, and as we always know with sequels, there's always something there that misses the point just a little bit. Episode 9, A Trusted Source. A visiting reporter on the Cerritos puts Captain Freeman and the rest of the crew a little on edge. They need a spa day. And episode 10, the stars at night. The Cerritos crew must prove their worth on a mission race. And we also get 3 seasons worth of finality in this last episode. Before we get into the ones I liked and the ones I didn't like, Monica, which one was your favorite from this block?
I think we're going to be complete opposites here. Because I think the one that I like is the one that you don't like, and we'll see. So
Okay.
stand by. But I really liked number 7, A Mathematical Perfect Redemption, because I think that is a classic Lower Decks. It hits all the right notes, and everyone knows that I'm a hopeless romantic. It checks all those boxes with the sexual innuendos. Looking forward to diving in deep to that one. There's a lot to talk about. I rewatched that one. Of all the other ones, I did not rewatch them.
Okay, people. So my co-host is crazy. What was your least? Before I go into mine, what was your least favorite?
I think my least favorite was Here All Trust Nothing.
Really? I thought you would like that one.
Not so much. I guess because I don't remember a lot of the scenes from Deep Space Nine, it was not a deep cut.
Normally, there's never a right or wrong answer. There's wrong answers this time. When you get your head at me, I'm sorry. There is no wrong answers. But for me, my favorite episode probably was episode 10, The Stars at Night. Just because we were getting little hints of like there was a mystery all throughout seasons 1, 2, and 3, and this episode sort of wrapped it all together. It explained why we got to meet so many of the different California class captains. We got to see a lot of people come back, and we got to see some like full circle personality changes and like their character arcs finish in this episode for me. My least favorite was 7. Like, there's nothing about it that I liked. No. Like, I've tried multiple times to sit through and get through this episode, and I just couldn't. From the moment it first came out, I didn't finish it when it first watched through, and every other watch through that I've done of Lower Decks before we started this, I couldn't get to this episode. And even for this rewatch, I was like, I just can't do this. I just had to read it because this episode just me. I can't.
Because there's parallels between the Mathematical Perfect Redemption and The Stars at Night. So I'm just surprised.
I
knew we were going to be at different places here, not to those extremes.
So
let's dive in.
Let's dive in. So starting with episode 6. Here all trust nothing. I never really realized what Star Trek I was watching with my dad. It was whatever one came on. This is before I realized there were multiple shows for Star Trek. I like Tendi. I like that we got to see a different side of her. I like when Tendi blows up because she's just this cute little bubbly, happy person all the time. And she meets another Orion who is like who's trying to be like the stereotype Orion, which is very annoying for Tendi. And we get to see Tendi be her real Orion self. What did you think about this episode in your deep dive?
Okay, I should have actually opened up with this. I really liked Tendi throughout episodes 6 through 10.
Okay.
I think her character arc is dynamic, very interesting. Rutherford as well. We'll talk about that. But I'm so glad they're not focusing as much about Mariner and Bold Boimler. I know that they have challenges along the way, but her character's really coming along, and I'm glad that she's shining because there's lots of characters in this story that need to be, I think, brought up further and explored in more depth. And I really like to see what pirate Tendi. I'll just name that. I'll just name it so.
Pirate Tendi.
See her come out of her shell, take more of a leadership role. She took it in this episode in Crisis Point too. But the fact that she was kind of hiding part of herself until this point because she was afraid of stereotypes about Orions and careful about how much she wanted to share about her background. And like most societies, there's a person that said that they know it all talk, no action. And we saw that character in this episode, and that I think helped Tendi to shine.
Yeah, this episode was because it's really interesting because both Orions were faking in a way. And not to say Tendi was truly faking who she was, she just was like tamping down on like the stereotypes of Orion. So she still tries to be a happy and bubbly person. And like even after she takes the ship one single-handedly, she still reverts back to her happy, bubbly self. So it's like she tamps down on how much of her Orion self, quote unquote, does other people get to see. And then we get to meet Mesk, M-E-S-K. And when I watched this, all I could think of was the Black kid who grew up in the suburbs trying to be hood. And it's like, dude, you grew up in a gated community. Please stop.
Yeah, Cincinnati, Ohio, right?
And he grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's never met another Orion. He was adopted. And that's no shade to him, no shade to anyone else. But it was like at that time where you're trying to be something, you're trying to embody a life that you never technically had, but like you also sort of have access to because of the color of your skin. So it's like you can have access to it, but don't fake like you grew up in it just because you want that street credit. It's like, dude, like you never met another Orion, but you got a religious exemption for a multi-tool. Like, what are we doing? So it was just like, oh, this reminds me a lot of different people I have encountered in my life. And it's just like, you grew up in a gated community. Like you have access to a lot of the same struggles that we do, but like at the same time, tamp down on how much you grew up with us. You know? That's what Mesk reminded me of. But he's a sweetheart. And he ended up like revealing his truth and just saying he just wanted to feel like he belonged when he finally met another Orion. And I hope to see more of him in the future. I hope that we get to meet him again and he's a little bit more real to himself and just accepts that he was an Orion that was raised by humans, but it doesn't make him any less Orion.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with his character. He's pseudo Orion to me. This is where we're opposites. Like, let's move on. Because I like real people. He's a user too, because he was trying to jump on their bandwagon. There's a character or two characters in here that I really liked from Deep Space Nine and Quark. And it was a joy to see him again and see his entrepreneurship spirit. And his sly antics and everything like that. His bar franchises and using the replicators to make alcohol and stuff, even though folks can do that, but they still go to Quark's restaurants to have fun. It's about the experience, I think. Treasures that he found and capitalizing on it. And it really shows the commercialism behind the scenes, especially at this place in Deep Space Nine, because Boimler was completely addicted to gambling, I think, and like using money because he doesn't need money, and money is frowned upon in the Federation. It was nice to learn about that again because it comes up later. And this is bold Boimler at this point. Bold Boimler is completely okay with cashing in all his coins for a gift for doubling up to get a gift certificate. But it was fun to see him in really a proud moment. There was lots of joy in the character. He wasn't like bumbling. Sometimes he could be kind of clumsy and accidentally makes a bad situation worse. It was not the case here. It was really a cool dynamic there. And why not gamble if there's no risks there if if your civilization doesn't use money? So I was on board with him. Yeah, I was like, double up too. Keep on doubling up, triple up.
Thumbs up. But no, Boimler, he has his moments where it's just like, oh, all right, but you know how to make that money at that table though. Love that for you.
Yeah, I loved his coin purse too. I have one of those. It's the little things.
So moving on to Monika's favorite episode, not mine. Monika, episode 7, A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. Take it away.
Okay.
Positive to say.
So in this episode, we are reunited with Peanut Hamper, and I saw those pierced lips. And Peanut Hamper finds its way, and now I guess it's safe to say her way, because of this episode, to a bird planet, and gets comfortable with the locals, learns about their technology, their habits, and everything, all for her own motives. And so I think that this like double layer of story and sort of a side quest for an AI character is interesting, and it helps build us up with all this other stuff that's impeding with Admiral
Amigos.
Yes, being amigos. So, and other AI issues. So she uses Wilson, her volleyball Sophie. I think she ended up calling it Sophie, but I kind of think of it Wilson, to help her get out of the, I don't know, her out from space, to use her dilithium to project out to this bird planet. So she's constantly using additional technology and trying to outwit to try to get saved by the Federation. But Federation doesn't care about her. It's completely forgotten about her. And then she kind of makes her way with this planet and this civilization, and works her way up to marrying the bird planet's like prince. So she was rescued by the leader of the bird planet village, like a primary village on the bird planet. And then there's a love-hate relationship between her and the bird planet's leading son, who is supposed to teach her the ways. And his name is Rada, I think. And they fall in love, and they
do they know?
Yeah.
Or does one of them fall in love and the other one is Peanut Hamper?
Yeah. Peanut Hamper has feelings. Peanut Hamper has feelings for him, and he definitely has feelings for her. And
the highest ranking person that she can attach herself to.
But she could have I don't know, with the leader of the village, but it's violating the prime directive at first so that she can get her way. But little does she know, because after they have this love fest, he shows her their ancestral home and all of their treasures that's underground. And this part of the story really reminded me of Avatar. And so this is another reason why I connected with it, because I just recently rewatched Avatar 1 and watched Avatar 2. So there's a lot of like connections here with like using the environment and outside forces coming in to steal from their riches. And I just love this organic versus AI shenanigans and conflict. Shenanigans for sure.
So, for me, the only positive about this episode was the ending. I like redemptions. I like when some people can be redeemed, or when it just sort of makes sense the reason why they are the way that they are. Because I get that everyone can be redeemed, but like, it's like one of the things with Magneto. We know Magneto is the way we know why Magneto acts the way that he does. It's because like he got a raw deal his entire life. So no, he doesn't trust people, and no, he's never going to trust the good in humanity because every time he tried to, the bad showed up. You know. But like Peanut Hamper, there's no reason for her to act the way that she acts, except the fact that she is just purely selfish. She is a selfish being who does not care about anyone else but herself. And it sort of showcases at once Starfleet shows up, when we see them come to this planet, she ditches them. She ditches them the moment she can to try and save herself. And then when someone doesn't agree with her, she goes straight to insulting them and calls them the poor man's Andorian and all of these other things. So it's just like, this episode, I knew going into this episode they were going to try to like make me like this thing, and I didn't. And it was like, this is a waste of my brain cells.
Okay, so we know why Peanut Hamper is this way. It's because she has daddy issues, right? So she's always wanted, her dad wanted her to do one thing. She didn't want to do it. She went off and to do this other thing. Who or what her daddy is a whole other thing. I don't know. But she's has some of the same struggles as other members of the Cerritos lower deck. And she plans this whole thing to attract scavengers to take the technology, and then she figured that the Federation would go to the planet, and that's exactly what happened. So she had this long game plan in it. Really like the ending as well, because for two reasons: the bird planet leader was able to save its entire planet, so it wasn't Peanut Hamper that saved. I really don't like it when like Mariner repeatedly saves the day, or that leading character. I hope the civilizations save the day, and so that happened. I really like that. And then Peanut Hamper is put in a vault with other AI.
Locked up. They won't let her out. Never let her out. Never, people. Look at me. Look at my eyes. Never let her out.
Right next to the other AI. And so we'll see if they join forces, share programs or something, and try to take over. That would be interesting.
Let's do a quick little deep dive into Crisis Point, because there's only really one thing about Crisis Point that I think deserves worth being talked about. So for Crisis Point 2 is Boimler's attempt at making a sequel to what we saw from season 1 of Mariner basically going through therapy with her mother issues. And this is supposed to be like an action sequence, gun-ho, Boimler saves the day, story of like time travel and Starfleet and Romulans. It's supposed to be this whole thing. And immediately sort of goes left. And we don't understand why Boimler's attitude changes so quickly. And we find out that his transporter clone died in his sleep. And Boimler starts to grapple with what's the meaning of life. Like, he was on a better ship. He was an exact copy of Boimler, but somehow a little bit more confident, but had his own quarters, had his whole life, and died by accident because some gas leaked into his like room. It's like, what is the point of life if you can just do all these big, amazing things and you die in your sleep? And Boimler like has almost a mental breakdown and sort of comes to terms with himself. We get to meet Captain Sulu, and he sort of helps Boimler come to terms with like what life is. And then we also see Tendi finally realize, as her acting role as a fake captain in this movie, that she does want to be captain one day. And we're seeing her grow further and further in her character arc. And then the final like post-credit scene was the best part of this episode, in my opinion. And I missed it the first time I watched it. because like I was just quick, like, let's go to the next episode. And then like my second rewatch through, I saw it. And we see that Boimler's transporter clone is not dead. He actually joined Section 31. And so the fact that we saw that tells us we're going to see him again sometime in the future. So what did you think of the big scenes in this episode?
Well, once again, the writers are making us think one thing, leading us down one path, and then unveil something later.
Mm-hmm.
If I knew that the other Boimler had passed, like if Mariner knew, everyone knew earlier in this journey, earlier in the hologram, then things would have been different. But because we all found out later, like we were all jumping to and wondering why is this all evolving the way it is. So my heart is going out to him. If it's like a death in his family, and he needed to come to terms with that, and he needed some time to process it. So that's really hard. But I think it's really cool to create a space that you can just let your imagination run wild. And once again, Tendi was able to really shine. Rutherford was acting a fool because he wasn't taking it seriously.
And he didn't realize she was taking it seriously either.
Right. But Tendi told him that this was very important. And then he stood up, which is good because he was like farting and eating and stuff like that. He just acted up.
Going into episode 9, trusted sources. So basically, Captain Freeman is sort of thrown for a loop because we have a reporter from their ZNN network onto the Cerritos to sort of do a think piece about her new swing by mission. And it's something interesting because the swing by mission is something both her and Mariner sort of wanted, but in like different formats. Mariner wanted it in like an unofficial capacity, and Freeman wanted it in a total, like, this is what we have to do capacity, official channels capacity. And so they wanted to, get some good press, because who doesn't want good press? Because even though people say all press is good press, that's not true. You want good press. And so they have a sort of a reporter on deck. And in Freeman's overthinking and very insecure way, sometimes she overthinks it. And instead of just going, sorry, FNN, not Zenon News Network, it's the FNN News Network. And she creates a list of everyone who the reporter can talk to. And it's like she handpicks people to say only what she wants them to say. And while I do love Captain Freeman, I love seeing a Black woman as a captain of a ship and in charge, sometimes her insecurities and her overthinking really does stand in her way. And I think that was her downfall in this episode, because she was so worried about making a good impression that she didn't really stop to think how her actions were sort of coming across. It sort of bit her in the butt at the end of this episode, which I actually, in my first watch of this episode, I was heated with all of them, because I trusted my girl Mariner. Because in this episode, they go back to past planets we've seen from Picard's mission. It looks like, the first planet they go to didn't really need them. They go to another planet and they uncover a marine attack. In between all of that, the reporter is asking Captain Freeman all these hard-hitting questions, which is what, is her job, is what she does. Freeman immediately thinks all the bad press is coming from Mariner. And while I will say Mariner had, in like seasons 1 or 2, I would have definitely believed Mariner would have been that person who was like ripping the crew a new one. But in this season 3, she has tried really, really hard to be more a part of the crew. And it's like the fact that her mother immediately was like, it's her fault, said, I can't even think of you as my daughter. I'm no longer your captain. I'm transferring you to Starbase 80, without even really finding out the truth if it was Mariner or not. She does what she always does, is she reacted, sometimes irrationally, and kicked her daughter off the ship. And when everything comes to pass and the actual episode comes out, we find out that it wasn't Mariner who said anything bad. Mariner was the only person who talked up good about the ship. Everyone else that the captain handpicked told all these funny stories that were inherently actually bad stories that made the ship look like in a bad light. And Mariner, who loved Starfleet, left Starfleet. Instead of being at Starbase 80, she resigned. What did you think?
First thing I thought of was that hundreds of years into the future, people, no matter what race, planet you're from, continue to jump to conclusions. Like, it just happens time and time again, and it happened in 3 of these 5 episodes. And I see a running theme, but it's just part of the nature, I think, of folks. And it shows poor leadership from Freeman. I agree with you there. I like the fact that there's a second contact missions here. I don't like the way that Freeman is portrayed, and I don't like Mariner's role in this. And no matter what, it was still her orders to engage with the reporter, and she violated the captain's orders, and she did not follow the rules from her mother. And come on, just you weren't invited to the party. It's okay. Make a use your replicator to make some blueberry pie and eat that in your quarters, and it'll be okay. The reporter's going to leave, and you're going to be okay. I don't know why she insists to take things on. That's not her battle, and takes charge. I wish she would stay in her lane. And I'm going to say it. Folks are upset at Michael Burnham for not staying in her lane. And I feel like Mariner repeatedly does not stay in her lane, violates, and doesn't have ramifications for her actions. And I don't agree with the way Freeman handled it, but finally there was some ramifications for this. And yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, but I do have to say I do disagree, because regardless of the fact it's her mother, I don't care that she disobeyed something from her mom. Like, that doesn't matter in space. Like, whatever, you're a grown woman. You don't have to, if your mom says jump, you don't have to say how high. But yes, it was her captain who said, I don't want you talking to the reporter. I also say I do believe her mother, her captain, said it in a manner of, again, it came from like, and I don't like, I think I said this when we spoke about Discovery, how like, I hate that it's like when the Black women are in charge, it's like they can't be whole people. They have to have like all these like flaws. And one of Freeman's flaws is she's a very insecure person in leadership. She always thinks someone's out there to undermine her. Now, does that mean Mariner was not trying to undermine her? No, she was in the past, season 1 and 2. I will go ahead and put that out there. She created an entire movie to basically kill the crew because she was upset with the captain / mom. And she has done the work to try and improve about that. Is she 100% healed? No. Is she 100% there? No. But her whole trajectory about Starfleet has changed. And I think it sucks that the one time she like disobeyed an order to talk up the crew, to talk great things about the crew, instead of her mom seeing this as, okay, yes, I know you broke the rules. Let me send you to the brig. She didn't stop to think that maybe, just maybe, out of everyone else who spoke to the reporter, everyone puts all the blame onto one person, even though it was everyone else who's actually at fault. So I get like she should not have disobeyed the order from her captain. She totally shouldn't have. But like, this time she was actually really trying to do something good and like let them know how much she cares about being on the ship and she loves the work that they do. And she's like really speaking up Starfleet. Everyone just assumes she's the person who's talking bad about them, which sucks. Because especially when you find, because I will say this, when I watched this, I knew she didn't do it. From the jump. I was like, that's not my girl. That was my girl in season 1. That's not my girl now. She has healed. She has changed. But she's not the one who talked down. And then to find out that it was everyone else. And I was like really happy that Captain Freeman could not find her at the end of it. I was very happy. I was like, suck it. That's what your insecurity gets you. We also start to realize we should not trust Admiral Bonamigo, because he has been having a secret project come out called the Texas class ships, which are all AI run ships. And I just have to say, every time we come into contact with AI throughout this show, even throughout Starfleet in general, AI having free range is never a good thing. We saw that with Discovery. We saw that with when Strange New Worlds was season 2 of Discovery. We saw all of that. We see it through season 1 with Badgie. We saw it with even with Peanut Hamper. AI does not automatically mean good. Like it's not a good thing. And he wants to basically retire the entire California class and replace them with the Texas class. What are your thoughts about that?
I want to say that Data is good and Data's daughter. So I think that because this happens right after Data, and I can understand because we're using drones now in warfare and want to automate things. However, in second contact missions, and you just need better judgment and you need more critical thinking, and it's I think a bigger issue in the finale for season 3, but there's definitely they're opening up this door for the use of automation in warfare and whether the battle of these two classes.
It's this episode was a ringer. It ended in total left field, and it takes us right into the season finale, episode 10. The Stars at Night. Because we see at the end of episode 9 that Mariner ends up with the person we saw from episode 5, who was the archaeologist. I almost said architect. Who is the archaeologist. And we see that they join up. And I was very happy for her. I was like, okay, she needs this time. Because she was sort of let down by everyone. And not to say they did not have a leg to stand on, and because of her past actions. Because while I love my girl Mariner, this girl has some issues. My girl had some issues that she had to work through. And I also have to say, but they all need family therapy, both mother and daughter. Like, as mother and daughter, they need therapy, and as captain and ensign, they need therapy, because I firmly believe Mariner's actions are a direct correlation to her mother's actions. So but that's a whole nother therapy session that needs to happen somewhere else. But neither here nor there.
And a therapy session without that therapist that always talks about food and who called his mother while he was on the bridge as captain. Okay, just wanted to say that point.
No, this is not a cantaloupe situation. It's a cantaloupe. Dude, if you don't stop with these superfood metaphors, they need a real therapist. They need a therapist who does not know them as captain and ensign. They need to get their mother-daughter issues figured out first, and then they can get their captain and ensign issues figured out. They need therapy. They all need therapy. My name is Andrea, and I'm an advocate for therapy. Even like you said, we're hundreds of years in the future, and people are still jumping to conclusions. We are hundreds of years in the future, and people still need therapy from the way their parents raised them. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. Back to episode 10. So based off of what Admiral Bonamigo wants, Captain Freeman, in response to trying to protect the California class, she's like, we're going to do a race against your drones then, because we're going to do everything that happens in a second contact mission. We're going to do everything that we normally do to prove that the California class is still there, and we still need it, and it's still like viable. And Admiral's like, sure, let's do it. So they go out on an all-out race to like drop off supplies, to build outpost stations, to do the menial things that they normally do in a second contact mission. And while they're on the surface of LT-358 and running a scan for life, Tendi, doing her job correctly, sees that the first initial scan might have overlooked something, and there may be microscopic life on this planet, meaning they can't build an outpost there. And so they have to stop their work. They lose their lead, and the AI Texas class ship is able to basically pass them and wins the race, which sucks because the whole admirals, all of them, they were going to retire the California class anyway. And this was like their Hail Mary to like try and save them. And then they failed. And I know Tendy's like, I'm sorry because I don't understand. Like it was our job. We had to do it. And I just don't get why the Texas class didn't do it either. And the Alito, and Captain Freeman is like, that's our ace in the hole because they did not follow Star Trek Prime Directive. And you have to put the value of life first. And Adam Bordomigo is like, whatever. And Rutherford makes the discovery of this one episode made all three seasons worth it for me. This one discovery that Adam Bordomigo was the one who put the implant in his head. He's using the code that Rutherford used for Badgie, who he started all before he even, like when he was still that angry ensign who was in the angry cadet. And it was all Admiral Bordomigo trying to build this Texas class ships. He's the evil guy. He's an admiral who does not care. What did you think of that reveal before we go any further?
Okay, this is tough. I like reveals. However, it's not the way I like my lower decks. Okay. I like my lower decks to be light, funny, like the bird planet. This is a deeper issue. This is like Discovery level depth here because it's a 3-season arc. And like, then my mind just exploded because I started to make all the connections and they were pulling me along. And then to this big reveal, and I was like, oh, but I like not having to really think about lower decks after I turn it off. So the feeling kept lingering. So I like it in the Star Trek universe. It's just not the way I like lower decks, but it was an amazing reveal because they built it up. They had this underlining story this whole way and stringing us along, and didn't know that really the evil villain was on the inside the whole time.
So I have to say that this is how I like my mysteries. I like getting little snippets of them, but not when it's like slammed in my face every single episode. Mystery, working on the mystery, we're working on the mystery. I like when it's like, okay, season 1, it's like, oh, that seems like Badgie being like, oh, how do you create this? Season 2, you know, having issues, remembering, oh, what should we have him remember? Oh, nothing. Like, oh, that seems like a darker theme that should worry about. And so, like, I like my mysteries with a hint of mystery, where like there could be other things. So people, even though we're amazing co-hosts, we have very different views because I like my mysteries like this. I like my lower decks like this, where it's just like whole overarching mystery is sort of like a bite-sized fed to you, and you can have other episodes, and then everything comes together at the very end versus dragging it out all season long, because that's not my mysteries. That's just too much for me, especially if they don't match at the very end. But we see that Adam Bordomigo does not care that he is basically being an evil admiral. He just wants to make a name for himself. And he brings all the Texas class. He brings the Alito online to stop the Cerritos from basically telling all the other admirals dude's evil. And Badgie says, I'm not going to listen to you, father. Like, he goes, he has daddy issues in the words of Tendi. Oh, AI ship can't have daddy issues. He has daddy issues. And he starts attacking everyone. He brings the other Texas class ships online, and we see another, and he's like destroying the outpost, and he's destroying other ships that come to help. And we see that the Cerritos like, all right, we got to figure this out. We got to go on warp. We got to save everyone, stop them from hurting civilians. And we cut to Mariner, who's basically like, I'm looking for a deeper meaning in life than just, like, what is the mystery behind who's funding our archaeology stuff? and she was looking for a reason to go back to Starfleet because being out of it made her realize she still loves it. She still wants to be a part of it. She still wants to do good and help people. And she goes back to help the Cerritos. And we find out that she calls all of the California class. And I have to say, people, I have to say, my cold, dead heart grew 2 sizes. Because when she comes back to save the Cerritos from certain deaths from the Alito, and her mom, the captain, is like, no, honey, get out of here. So no, I called help. And then we start seeing all the other California classes come. And we see all the captains that we had solved throughout seasons 1 through 3. Monica is shaking her head at me, but I teared up. I was like, go California class! I was so proud of them. It was all the California class ships came, and they protected the Cerritos, they destroyed the Alito, and let's hear it for the California class, because I raised the drink for them too. I paused the episode specifically to go get a drink so I can raise a glass for them, because I did tear up. I was very, very, very happy. And we get to see a little bit of non-therapy but healing moment between mother and daughter and captain and ensign, between Mariner and Freeman. Because when she apologizes to Beckett and tells her, I do apologize and I would love to offer you a spot back. And Mariner's like, I have to admit, I did sort of, dig my own grave. Like, I made you believe I was this type of person for years, even though she started changing. And then we get to see her character arc change from even just this season when her mom forced her to work with Ransom for him to be in charge of her, and she fought it every single way she could. And now she's begging for Ransom to be her mentor because she wants to be more in Starfleet. And Ransom is now like, whoa, I didn't ask for this. And I just like the character art. We see Tendi getting another person in her science career. Which still, why is this freaking bird? I'm so sorry, I should not call him that. Why is this the therapist? Why is he her science officer? Why is the therapist her science officer? I don't understand this. I don't understand why he is. But we get to see someone from I think it was season 3? Or was it season 2? The Vulcan.
Season 3, T-Lin.
Yes. And we get to see her come back, and now she's a part of Starfleet. She's a science officer. So, what did you think of this episode?
Okay, so I had 2 highlights. I'm going to talk about the good, and then I'll talk about the bad. 2 highlights. I really like the connection with T-Lin and bringing in another Vulcan and possibly someone else to the lower decks crew. That's a nice dynamic. Secondly, I would have loved to see more time with Mariner on this side quest in archaeological missions. So uncover the stolen artifacts and then place them inside of museums, all based on a huge endowment from Picard. That's interesting to me.
Yes.
That could be a show not a show, but a episode within itself or several episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Love to see that.
I agree.
Now, I'm transitioning to what I don't like. So there's this dynamic between technology and organics. And so I see this running theme throughout the seasons, and I see this this conflict. What I don't like the fact that Mariner, who's at that point not part of the Federation, have direct comms from this rogue vessel, direct comms to the bridge to announce her arrival, and then bring all of the California class together in one spot. So why in the world was the rest of the Federation not able to do that? This is when Lower Decks goes into this realm of this big compilation, this big arc. Then and they don't fix all of these details, then I have issues. Either keep it light and fluffy, or make sure you're on point. But you can't do all these things and have these gaping holes in your plot and in the technology. So That's where I have issues, because then the Titans' other upper class echelons from the Federation should have been able to be there. Someone outside of the Federation should not have been able to I don't know, redirect all the all of the California class from all of their other missions to this one point for a favor.
So I have to agree that an outsider should not be able to do that. I have to disagree when it's Mariner, because the only reason I'm saying this, because you're right, an outsider should not be able to do this. Like, a random Schmo Joe should not be able to do this. But like, Beckett's not a random person. So like, one of her best friends is a captain. So I'm saying, like, it's not like she's saying, even though she's not talking to anyone on the Cerritos, it does not necessarily mean she may not send a message to this, because there's nothing that says she can't send a message to a Starfleet ship.
Yeah.
So, because I agree, I definitely agree that some random Schmo Joe from any rogue ship should not be able to commandeer comms and stuff. That being said, Mariner is not a random person. She literally just left Starfleet, so she may still know how to, quote unquote, get access, whether it's legal or illegal, to the ship she was just on like 2 weeks ago. Not even 2 weeks ago, like maybe like a couple days ago, you know?
Yeah, so, just because you have that access point, just because you have that network, doesn't entitle you to have that level of security to be able to redirect. It would be totally different if I would feel differently if she was still part of the subclass 8 or whatever, because she would still be part of Federation. Yeah. Like, once you resign from corporate, like, I'm sorry. Sorry, there should be a security wall around it.
There should be. And I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm saying she probably just went around it, because apparently all these people are geniuses anyway. And they can always communicate with other ships. Like, we've seen that with all Starfleet things. They have open channels to communicate with other ships. So there's no reason for her not to be able to communicate. Do I think that she maybe did some like rewiring of stuff to be able to take over their comms and say, belay that order? Yes, I firmly believe she was like, hey, stop that. Like, I'm hacking into your system because it's me. So like, I agree that some random person should not be able to do that. And when you get fired, like they always say, when you like leave IT, they like remove your access that same day, because so you shouldn't be able to do that, because you know how everything is made. But we also know Mariner does not follow the rules. So I chalked it up to, she just hacked them.
Right.
And also using her connections with other ships, they might have just given her access through them. Because like, again, one of her best friends is a captain of a ship. And she made all those connections through, we saw in the episode 3 or 4 of the season, where everyone else was like totally obsessed with the Cerritos. And so like, there was nothing to say that she didn't use her connections to bypass that order versus a random ship having access. So that's how I viewed it, because we saw people that she had connections with come back and save them. So she could have sent the message to her best friend. Her best friend like sent the California class wide, hey, Cerritos needs help. Screw what Starfleet says. We're going to go save our friends because we all respect the Cerritos. Let's go. So like, there's nothing to say that didn't happen, because a random person should not have been able to do what Mariner did. But Mariner is not a random person.
Yes, she's definitely not a random person. So my second major issue with this is that, once again, circling back to this whole organic versus AI, the whole reason why Captain Freeman is under this is to prove that a person in the seat as a captain of a ship can make better decisions. However, when it got to the point in which they had to determine how to get out of warp and to save their ship, the Cerritos, she asked for ideas. Shaq shared an idea, and she asked for others, completely dismissing his idea. Yes, it was the same idea he shares time and time again, but take it seriously, right? Because this is the difference between I can't say human, an organic captain and the AI, right? To have this sense of community, to work as a collective whole, to help you get through. And I was like, Freeman, Black female captain, please make these better decisions, girlfriend. So I had a frustration with that, with the way they write her line. And you mentioned it earlier. I just wanted to circle back to this as an example of that. I'm glad that Shax and Boimler were able to make up, and Shax was able to save the day once again in a season finale, like we saw in season 1. So that was good, but I just didn't like the Captain Freeman.
Yeah, she needs therapy.
More of that.
So we have a couple more minutes before we are going to end. So as a whole, what did you think of the season?
For the entire season, I liked it a lot. It gave me joy. There's some episodes I definitely rewatch. And I see a lot of running themes where I'm intrigued for season 4. And I heard there's a potential crossover with Strange New Worlds. So it'll be interesting to see how they integrate live action with this animation. And so, yeah.
I also am very excited. I really did like this season. This season we start to really get to start to actually meet the characters. Like some people say, like, hey, if you knew me when I was 20, you didn't actually know me because I wasn't done growing at that point. Like, you met a version. Like, this, I'm the complete person now. Like when you're 30 now, it's like, hey, who you met at 20 was not who I am now. You don't know me. I feel like season 1 and season 2, we didn't really know the characters. We were starting to meet them, but they were also sort of fumbling, becoming this unit, growing, going through therapy, healing, being more secure in who they were. So like season 3, we really start to meet and love and grow and understand these characters and who they are and who they're hoping to be in future seasons. I'm looking forward to seeing what Tindy has, because I love that girl. I'm looking forward to seeing what Rutherford becomes. Because he's like, hey, he's keeping the implant, how like it robbed him of his memories, but like, hey, he can do a whole bunch of other things with it. I'm hoping Mariner can learn to be a little bit smaller. That she doesn't have to be this save the day person all the time. And I hope that Boimler gets a nice little even ground to stand on, because like he's not comfortable in his skin yet. But we see that with him being bold Boimler, he's getting a little bit more comfortable and understanding who he is. And then there's one other thing from episode 10 that I forgot. At the very end, we see that when the Packlet, we see like debris from a Packlet dump ship is floating, and among it, we see the icon of Badgie in Rutherford's old headpiece. So Badgie is not gone. He may come back, and with all these little end seasons of with Peanut Hamper and Agnes and all these AIs that we're seeing that we have been introduced, I'm wondering what's going to happen in season 4. So I'm very excited. Any final thoughts?
Want more humanitarian missions, and I want a lighter side. Lots of humor, lots of like sexual innuendos, dare I say, lots of like things that you can't do in live action. Stick with that, Lower Decks.
I still also would like lighthearted episodes. But if you're gonna do a mystery, keep it where it's not a season. I liked how we were getting little hints of it. So if there was like another 3-season mystery, but we didn't realize it was a mystery until the last episode, I'm fine with that. Just don't keep it fun. Let us realize, oh, that was a hint, versus throwing it in our face. This is a hint. Keep it light, keep it fun. Because it is a nice little mental break to just laugh and have fun with these episodes. So thank you guys for hanging out and listening to us in our debates when it comes to Star Trek. Because one day we will agree on more than one episode at a time.
Maybe.
But as always, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Anika.
And live long and prosper.